Welcome to the Tabs and Icons Consulting video series. In this video, we're going to look at two new functions by Microsoft into the Microsoft 365 series, the group by as well as the pivot by functions. These two functions enable you to create a summary of your report and to aggregate, sort, and filter such data accordingly. Let's look at our hypothetical data. Now we have this data here, sales report by product, week, unit price, quantity sold, as well as total sales. Now, what are we expected to do? Say, using the sales data given, you are required to prepare the following reports: total sales per staff, total sales per week, that's by week, as well as sales by staff and by product. Now, we know we can actually generate any of these reports using the sum ifs function or the usual pivot table analysis. But this time, we are using these functions, group by as well as pivot by function. Now, first, I want to turn this into a table. It doesn't have to be, but because I intend to automate this report with future data, so I'm going to turn it into a table to make that easier. So I place my cursor anywhere and I say Ctrl T and I hit my enter. So I've turned this into a data table. Now, the first report is the sales per staff. Now I'm going to use the group by function. The group by function is actually an 8-argument function with only 3 of those functions being mandatory. So you can see how easy it is. The other 5 are mandatory arguments. I'm going to take this gradually. So I come here and I'm going to say equal to group by. Now what am I going to do? The first argument, which is a mandatory argument, is row field. Now the row field is actually those rows within the column that are forming the base of what you want to define your work. I'm defining this by sales staff. So I come to sales staff here, which is a heading here, and I highlight the whole of this. This becomes my row field. I take a comma, it's asking me for values. Now I have about 3 different value fields. Here I have the unit price, quantity sold, and total sales. I'm looking at the total sales, so I'm going to highlight that column. I take my comma, and then the third mandatory argument is function. This is a very rich argument where you have series of functions, so I can actually look at the sum of what I'm looking at, the average, the count, the max, product, a lot of items, but this time I want to use sum, so I have selected the sum, and that is the only 3 mandatory argument. If I hit my enter, let's see what happens. Now I hit my enter and I get this. Very easy report. Let me move this one a little bit out. So I have gotten this. Let me place comma separator. Now, these are the staff that she is a Kayode Lawan, and by default is going to give you always the total. But let's look at the other optional arguments. Now I can as well come here and say staff, and then I come here, I say total sales. I can add them as hard-coded cells. But let's look at the next argument, which is an optional argument. If I take a comma, it's going to ask me fields. So this particular field is saying that it's a field header. Do I want to show the heading? It's saying no. If I want it, I'm looking at the third one, say yes and show. So I select the third one. I want headers to show. So I hit enter, is that the headers have been displayed. So the choice is yours whether you want to show the headers or you don't want to show the headers. Now let's look at another argument, which is also an optional argument. I take command, this time is asking total depth. Now, what total depth? Do I want the grand totals? Where do I want them? Do I want grand totals and subtotals? Do I want it at the top or at the bottom? Now, I don't want the grand totals, so I just take 0. By default, it has given me the grand totals, but if I don't want it, I select 0 and I hit enter. And the grand totals are already off. So this is how to do this report. Now let's look at the second report, total sales per week. So the same thing, all I need is to change my row field. So I come here and say by. I move straight this time by week. So I go to where do I have week? Yeah, this is where I have my week. Highlight this. That's right here. I take my comma, it's asking me for values. So I go straight to where I have my values, which is the total sales. I highlight the whole of this, and then I take sum. These are my arguments. So I'm going to select header, And I'm also going to say it shouldn't give me total. So I hate this. Now, these are my sales by week, and I'm doing this. Now, this is a very flexible report. The beautiful thing about the group by is that any change you make here will automatically reflect in this report. So you don't need to come and make a change here and then begin to seek for or search for where it's affected. It's automatically reflected. Let me remove those. So now I want to draw a chart for this. We know how to draw a chart. I'm just going to place my cursor there, and then if I want to draw a column chart, you say Alt and press F1. This gives me a column chart immediately. Now, this is not a class for charting. We've done several videos on that. If you're not comfortable with charting, you can go to our videos and learn that. Now, let's see the beauty of what we're doing. The third one is saying total sales by staff and also by product. Now, that means I'm going to place probably my staff vertically and I'm going to place my products horizontally. Now, when you have to portray your report this way, the best function to use is the pivot by. So I'm coming here and I intend my staff to be shown this way, while the product to be shown this way. So I'm going to say equal to pivot by. And now it's asking me for row field, which is what we already have there. But the next argument, column field, was not in the group by. So I'm coming to the row field. Since it's staff, I'm going to staff. I highlight this. I take my comma. Now it's asking me for column field. Which field do I want to be displayed on the horizontal axis? Now, product. So I go to my product. So I highlight the whole of the product. And I take my comma, the same argument, values. Now, the values certainly is this last one. And what do I want to achieve? I want sum. Do I want headers? Yes, I want headers to be displayed. So let me stop there and then I hit my enter. Now, you can see how lovely this report is. So I've prepared my report showing me staff by product. So this is my staff. Dashi, apple have this, mango this, and at the end it will always show you the total both vertically and horizontally. So I'm going to make this a little bit wider so I can bold in this. So I'm going to highlight this. These are totals. I hope I can bold in this one's fine. So this is how I can use the pivot by. Very lovely. But now let's see the beautiful part of this reporting. Now, I've done 10 weeks, and then 3-4 weeks down the lane, the branches gives me their performance for weeks 11 to 12. This will be week 11. I already have week 10 there. Week 11 to what was the last week here? Week 11 to 12. So what am I going to do? I copy that place here. Now, because I already have week 10, the moment I place that 11 to 12, the system will update this, update the values here corresponding to sales by the individuals. So I just move straight to, let me move this chart away from here so that it doesn't distract us. Then let me move it here. You can see the chart is for week 1, week 2 up to week 10. So I'm moving straight to this place. Now I'm copying the whole of this. Control C, I move to where my report is. Remember, this is already a table. So when I paste this one, it's going to automatically format this now. So I have week 1 to week 12. Now let's look at our report and see what it is. Look at our report. I have week 10, 11, and 12 has been added automatically. So let me remove this one. Okay, fine. So you can see as I'm adding more weeks, as the reports come weekly, all you need to do is to copy, paste under this particular report, and all your reports are automatically updated. Let's look at our chart. Now you can see the chart that week 11, 12 has been included. So as you continue to do week 13, 14, They will be included in your chart, included in your report. Very easy, and all you need to do is paste, and it's updated automatically. Now that's different between this and pivot table. In pivot table, your update report does not update your data. Your update data does not update your report immediately. You have to start coming to refresh, just like you do in Power Query. So this is the beautiful function that Microsoft has introduced. If you don't have Microsoft 365, I'm sorry, you won't have access to this. But if you have Microsoft 365, please practice this, use it in your job, and see how lovely it is. Thank you very much for listening. In other videos, we're going to see much more of what Excel can do. Bye-bye.